I do agree with everything you say. I just disagree where the movie's bad, and I did disagree with that point you made about it not being multiversal because it was the part that I do think that Doctor Strange does, because I do think Doctor Strange is a good movie. A lot of people do. I think that Doctor Strange is I think Doctor Strange laid a lot of groundwork for what we're going to see in the multiverse. No, it was not perfect, bro. It was not perfect by any means. But I do think that Doctor Strange gave us a blueprint to the multiverse and seeing the greater possibilities of it. And I think that's why I hold it to such a high standard, because I really enjoyed the just like it felt like to me like Doctor Strange is giving us a glimpse of what we're going to see to come in in the in the future, minus the America Chavez stuff, and it got me pretty and like it gets me pretty excited when I see it from that perspective.
So the problem I have with Doctor Strange, the Multiverse of Madness, is with the specifically about the Multiverse of Madness. Number one, I don't think the movie was good. I think the third act was so bad, and I think the third act ruined the movie. And I think a lot of that has to do with America Chavez and sidelining Doctor Strange and building up the movie with Strange and Wanda, and never having them face off in the end was crazy. But the other thing that you have to think about is, like, if you didn't read comics and you just watched Marvel movies, you wouldn't know right now what makes the multiverse special or interesting. You literally wouldn't know. And the thing about this story leading into this version of Secret Wars in the comics is that they have to wrestle with the idea of killing another planet. And, similar to Civil War, some of the characters are like, we have to blow up the other planet before we collide with it, because if we don't, we're all going to die anyway. So it might as well some of us live, or, we're going to die. And a lot of the characters had different feelings on that, and they thought about it. And it went on for a huge comic run. And there are, consequences to these things. And I just don't think that, like, they made the multiverse really interesting in that movie. And I kind of think, and the other thing is, like, different versions of characters create different results and outcomes and different events. And they kind of touched on it with Doctor Strange and Thanos, but they did that for like a blip of a second. And that was like the coolest scene in the movie to me. So, I think they could have done more with the multiverse. That's why I call it multiverse, not so much madness. And it's the only movie that they kind of had the opportunity to do that with. The other multiverse movie was obviously No Way Home, and I don't really think that one, did such a great job in the multiverse in terms of advancing the story of the MCU. But they used the multiverse for the villains and bringing in the other Spider-Man. And the multiverse was more of a tool to bring back Toby and Andrew. And it really wasn't a feature of the story.
Yeah, so I partly agree and I partly disagree, because, as I said, you and I, this is a agree to disagree thing, because I just think that, like, the multiversal parts of it is what's the most positive, and I would say that other than Doctor Strange, I would say Loki is the show that shows us how special the multiverse actually is. And that's what's kind of, I think a lot of fans are grounded. Yeah, I think that like Loki grounded, and I do think the reason why they went to so multiversal with Loki was because of the failure of the idea that they try to push with Doctor Strange. Like, I don't think the idea was 100% pushed the right way, but like when I look at like I view Multiverse of Madness as like Avengers Age of Ultron. Age of Ultron is probably the weakest Avengers film that we have, but I would argue that Age of Ultron does the most world building for the characters in almost all of the MCU films leading up to Avengers, Infinity War, and Endgame, other than Civil War. And that's kind of where I see Multiverse of Madness doing for Doctor Strange. And I think that depending on what they do with Doctor Strange 3 and what they do in the Avengers, I think that they can redeem Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness to an extent to where people will understand the payoff of the multiversal scenes with Wanda and Doctor Strange.
Right.
Like I think that, like, regardless of the trash stuff that they did with America Chavez, you can take the good parts, which is Wanda killing like the whole Illuminati and just wiping them out like freaking flies, and even them building Doctor Strange up to be like the bad guy, like Doctor Strange are evil. Like there's issues with you. I think they can take those two ideas and you can put that in Doctor Strange 3. You can also put that into Secret Wars, and maybe you start that war with the incursions, with the two Earths colliding. Like I think that if done right, you can redeem both of those qualities. And bro, I think that for me, and you know me, bro, I'm a big hope filled type of person. Like so, like I think that like if done right, you can redeem that movie by doing that. But it's all up to the studio's hands to do that right. And I feel like with Deadpool gives me it's showing me like, okay, like this could be the start of that redemption.
You know, I also think that that's the other thing. Like they should have spent more time with the Illuminati. They didn't. If anything, that movie should have been like an Illuminati multiversal movie, and it just wasn't. And like when I never, the only time I ever rewatched it was to see was it really as bad as I thought it was, or and I watched it again, and like I wouldn't watch it. Like I go back to watch movies because I enjoyed them, and I would never ever turn that movie on again. I just wouldn't. I didn't like it like that. Like I didn't enjoy the movie, and I don't think it served its purpose that it needed to serve. Like I think that there is a lot more that Marvel needs to do in an effort to sell the concept of the multiverse in the MCU. They just haven't done it yet.
Yeah. As I said, I think that Loki sold it though.
I think Loki made a big step forward, but I think there's a lot more that needs to be done because they need to talk about incursions and like, dude, when you think about that scene of Reed breaking down the incursions for the Illuminati, like we haven't had anything like that.
Yeah. Well, because we don't read yet, and I think that movies like Deadpool 3 and the Fantastic Four, those movies are going to be the benefactors of how that gets explained. So I hope
Yeah,
that we get something.
me too. They need to be. They need to be. And that's why I say so much of the MCU is riding on the Fantastic Four. But Deadpool and Wolverine, I would say right now the MCU is riding on Deadpool and Wolverine and the Fantastic Four, and that has to be like objective number one.